What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Dynasty Warriors Origins video where I'll be counting down the most hated characters from Dynasty Warriors Origins based on the data that I collect. Now, just because there are characters on this list, it doesn't mean that they are a bad character or necessarily hated at all. It just means based on the data, these are the people who did the worst in terms of the polls. The poll, the data, the votes. YouTube allows me to see the exact number of votes per character. I will try to explain each one as statistically as I can. If you want to watch the full rankings, the full least popular to most popular characters, you can check out the video down in the description. But this is just the 10 quote-unquote worst rated characters from Dynasty Warriors Origins. But again, just because they are on this list, it doesn't mean that they are bad. Most of the characters in Dynasty Warriors Origins were received relatively well, and just because they are on this list does not mean that they are a bad character. I just want to put that out there, make sure everybody knows before we jump in. With that being said, let's start off with an honorable mention, quote-unquote number 11. This is going to be, it was a hard choice based on the stats that I had, but we have Dong Zhuo coming in, 6% of people voting on him into the lowest tier. He had close to 4,000 total votes, which was heavily taken into consideration versus the people that I put above him, because I originally had him higher in the list, but it just didn't make sense statistically to have him higher than the characters you're going to see at 9 and 10 who only had 5%, but much lower votes. I just feel like if those characters had close to 4,000 votes like Dong Zhuo did, their trash rating would be, I feel, much higher than 5%. It would be at the 6 or 7 or maybe even 8%. But again, I can't control how many votes are in for each character. I can only go off of what I have. So Dong Zhuo starting off here at the 6%, 4,000. There's only one other character who had 6% as well who is on this list, and we will reveal that character a little later. But let's jump into the top 10, starting off with number 10, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So coming in at number 10, again, this character has 5% of people putting him down into the lowest tier. Almost 2,700 people voted on this character, and the reason that I feel like this character, again, is more quote-unquote hated or more disliked than Dong Zhuo is because of the difference in votes. More than 1,000 other people voted on Dong Zhuo versus this character at number 10, which is,
harsh as things may seem right now, I will not accept defeat.
Yuan Shao only receiving 2,700 votes, but getting a 5% trash rating for that. I feel like if he gets up to 4,000, he is going above, or he's definitely going above 6%. And that's not to say he's a bad character, but it just seems that because of the lower number, and based on like my predictive analysis, it just seems like Yuan Shao would raise up above that 6%, and that's why I put him over Dong Zhuo. Again, Yuan Shao's not a bad character. I liked him in the game. I think he was great. I liked his bond sequences. I liked his stature, his composure, his moments, they were fine. But just from the ratings alone, it seems that he was not well liked compared to some of the other characters. And still, 5% is a very low rating, as not too many characters have a high dislike rating. So 5% is still very, very low. Let's go ahead and move on to number 9, who had the exact same amount as him. Next up, coming in at number 9, another character who got a total of 5% of people putting him down into the lowest tier. There were a total of 6 characters who had 5% of people putting them into the lowest tier. But this is the quote-unquote worst character because this character had the least amount of votes. This was the first character that I did for this, which is probably why he has the least amount of votes. I think if he got up to the 2, 3, or even 4,000 mark, he might have a lot more. That's going to be,
how do I come back from this?
Chen Gong only had 1,300 people vote on his poll at the time that I recorded the number. 1,300 people voted, and 5% of that 1,300 put Chen Gong into the lowest tier, which is a lot for quote-unquote that number, because Chen Gong actually has the least amount of votes out of all the characters I put up. Again, I think it's because of the first poll and him not being very popular. Not too many people are going to vote on him, because right after Chen Gong, I put up Cao Cao, and Cao Cao got close to 5,000 people voting on him. So I think in combination with it being the first pose and him not being very popular, Chen Gong unfortunately fell victim to a very terrible voting ratio, and unfortunately he's on this list. I like the character again in the game. Chen Gong's philosophy, like I've said plenty of times, is amazing, but it wasn't enough to maze him out of this list. So he's coming in at number 9 for me. Let's go ahead and move on to number 8. Next, coming in at number 8, this is the only other character that has 6% of people putting this character in the lowest tier. Now, because the numbers are so similar to the previous two, this character only had about 2,400 people voting on them. So 6% of people putting them down to the lower tier is a much higher number versus Dongzhuo's 6% at 4,000. It could be argued for Dongzhuo not being on the list at all, but the other characters who are at 5% and are not on the list all had 3,000 votes or more, so I could not put Dongzhuo off the list entirely. Anyway, coming in at number 8, we have...
Now listen, I am the strongest fighter in this village.
Juha received 6% of her votes down into the lowest tier. Again, out of almost 2,400 people seeing her poll, voting on it, putting her down there. She's 8th on the list. Doesn't mean she's a bad character. I think her iteration was fine. A little one note, a little flat as a character. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Juha. Let's go ahead and move on to number 7. Coming in at number 7, the percentage is going to jump up to about 9% for this character. Over 3,000 votes for this character as well. 9% of people put this character down into the lowest tier. That is going to be...
Alright, stop it already. I can't bear this any longer.
Now there also is another character with 9% who's going to be right after Huashong here. But Huashong falling down to the 9%, falling in at number 7. It makes sense. The character didn't really have much to do. He was kind of a side quest. I mean, he was almost an NPC where his unique design didn't even really mean anything. Like, it's just, he's just kind of there to get beat up, and that's pretty much it. So I can see why the character wasn't too impactful in the game to many people. And with that being said, let's go and move on to number 6. Now, number 6, like I said, is the exact same rating of percentage for the game, for the votes, just like Huashong. 9% of people said that this character was not very good. But this character only received about 2,800 total votes, which means he had less votes, but the same amount of percentage for people putting him into the F, the trash tier, which makes him a worse character technically by the stats, which is why he's above Huashong. That's going to be...
This is embarrassing, but sometimes you just have to run.
Again, another character that I actually liked in the game. I think he improved pretty well. However, not everyone's going to feel the same about it, and according to the polls, he didn't do too hot. So he's going to be here on the list at number 6. Zhou Song, again, doesn't mean that they were a bad character in the game. That's just what the polls have reflected. Now, coming in number 5, the rest of the list, all the percents are going to be unique. None of them are ties, so it is a clear-cut position for them. No need to argue on why they are here. Coming in at number 5, we have...
I am always glad to be of service.
So Yuan Hua is going to get us up into the double digits. 10% of people said that he was not a great character. Yuan Hua received about 3,300 total votes, and 10% of people said that he was not. They didn't like him, which there's not much to argue here. I mean, 10% is bigger than 9, and he's got a much bigger vote as well. We could potentially make an argument for it, but I think numbers are too close to make an argument for Mr. Yuan Hua being any lower. So number 5 is going to be a great spot for him. Let's go ahead and jump up to number 4. Coming in at number 4, we unfortunately have a character reprising his role in this list. He was in the other one. So we got 3,500 votes, and 12% of people said that he was not the greatest character. That's going to be Mr.
I can barely hold my weapon anymore. Maybe it's time to call it a day.
So just looking from a statistical standpoint, I don't need to argue nothing here. Shu Chu not doing too well. I think he had the second highest number of votes besides Dongzhuo, but I can't move him any lower. 12%, I mean, as the percentages grow, they are more significant. So Shu Chu is solidly at number 4 here, even though he technically had more votes, a larger pool. It could be argued that if some of the characters got up to his vote number, that they would have similar numbers. It's too hard to speculate, and because Shu Chu has such a hard number here at 12%, I'm going to keep him here at number 4, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the top 3. Next up, coming in at number 3, another character reprising his role on the most hated character list, and that's just a signal that the character needs to change. Personality, looks, something, and that's going to be...
This is looking ugly. Would anyone notice if I left now?
15% of people said that he's not that great. He's not doing too well. Nearly 3,000 votes for this character as well, and yeah, I can't argue it. There's nothing I can do about it. I put the poll out, I asked him, I show him his face, people don't like it. They're like, Han Dong needs to change, and I'm not I'm not opposed to that. I think Han Dong needs to be respected a little more. He was a good character in the book, and he's a loyal veteran general of Wu, and I think he should have a more respectable form and iteration in the game. But that's all I have for him. Moving on to number 2, Silver Medal, second most hated character. You guys probably already know if you watched the other video. But we're going to reveal it here. 18% of people putting this character down there. Only 2,500 votes. So that's kind of, it's a little wacky. That's going to be missed.
There you are. You're hell-bent on standing in my way, aren't you?
So Bailawan not shining too great in the last game. He was just too antagonistic, and not in a good way. Like, you can have a villain like Dong Zhuo, who was on this list as well, but most people respect Dong Zhuo, especially the way he was iterated in the game, because he was a respectable villain this time. Versus Bailawan, nasally, whiny, the favoritism for Shu. Nobody wants those things. We want the equality, the neutralness, you make a decision, the character wants to oppose you every time. He wants to be like the rival from Pokemon. Sure, but give me a good reason. Don't just say Cao Cao's bad because it's Cao Cao. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So Bailawan being towards the bottom, I can see it. It makes sense. And with that being said, let's reveal number 1. Coming in at number 1 shouldn't be too shocking, especially if you watched the other video. But what is shocking about the character is that 41% of people said that this character is not very good. And that's going to be, I'm sure you guys know,
Forced to retreat. How could it have come to this?
Yuan Shu, nearly 3,000 votes on the character's poll. 41% of people said that he ain't looking too hot. And that's fine. Yuan Shu's a character who's always going to be in this list no matter what. But most of the other characters on this list have an opportunity to fight for those top positions if you change them well. I think characters like Dong Zhuo, maybe Yuan Shao, Hua Xiong aren't going to do too well for like ever. But Zhou Song you can make cool. Shu Chu, of course. Han Dong you can make great. Juha, if she stays in the game, you can make her whatever. But because of the way these characters are iterated, it's just not going to happen. With Yuan Shu, he's just going to have the stamp of hate forever. There's just no way. Unless there's some weird hypothetical at some point, he matures, we see a different light of him. Maybe I'll do that for him if, I become the creative controller of Dynasty Warriors at some point. Give him a nice little hypothetical, nice little character arc. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. But besides that, he goes his normal route every time. The honey water, the fruit, the whatever, he's going to remain at the bottom. That's just the way it is. He's got the stamp. He's got the mark. Ain't much else we can do for Yuan Shu out here. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, this is based on stats alone. None of these characters, for the most part, are a bad character. They are just not well liked in Origins based on the stats. The polls, the votings, the numbers, the percentage. That is it. Based on the numbers alone, these characters are on the list. Again, there's like 4 characters on here that I really like. So I don't think they're bad characters. It's just the way that they got voted into the polls. That's all. Anyway, that's all I have for the list here. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. Were you surprised to see anybody on here? Anyone else that should have been on here that's not on here? All that good stuff, let me know down below. If you haven't seen the full video and you want to check it out, feel free to check it out in the description, along with the least hated characters, a much more closer list than this one. That one got a little tricky, but this one was pretty straightforward except for like the bottom 5. And that's all I have for the video here, guys. Appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next one.